Okay, so we're going to do 7.7, ready, set, go, number 4. And it's sine of theta equals to negative 13 over 14. And they're asking you to find the two angles in the first rotation, so from 0 to 2 pi, that are solutions to the equation, and then round your answers to the 2 decimals. So the very first thing that I like to do whenever they tell me to do this is always draw a picture, just because that's just easier. They drew a picture for me. So I basically have to draw a picture of a right triangle whose sine is negative. And if you remember sine is our y, it like kind of like corresponds to our y variable. So I'm really looking at the bottom 2 quadrants because that's where y is negative. And again, the triangle does not have to be like, what is it called? It does not need at all to be to scale. Like, in fact, those two don't even look like reflections of each other. So it's really horrible. I should probably learn how to draw better right triangles, but that's okay. Right. And so the negative 13 goes here, the 14 goes here, the 14 goes here, and the negative 13 goes here. Right. And so this is not a familiar triangle to me. This is not my 30, 60, 90 or my 45, 45, 90 triangle. So, like, how do I do this? So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to figure out how to get theta out of sine. How do I undo that sine? Very good. So it's, again, it's going to be using that sine inverse. And so with sine inverse, I'm going to do that to both sides. So I'm going to write this out properly. You're going to see me leave some space places because I like to show you how to write this properly. So I'm going to sine inverse both sides like this, sine inverse here, and then sine inverse here. And I specifically leave space because this is how you're supposed to write it, right? So then these two inverse each other out. And so I'm left with theta equals to the sine inverse of 13 over 14. And then now I'm going to plug it into my calculator and see what it gives me. Okay. So I get sine inverse of 13 over 14, and I get 1.19. Oh, I forgot my negative. That's what I'm forgetting. That's why it didn't make sense to me. There. Negative 13. So now the answer is negative 1.19, which now makes a lot of sense. Okay. The initial answer that it gave me was going to be somewhere up here in this in this quadrant, and that was like, wait a second, that's wrong. And now this guy is negative 1.19. Oops. So this angle in here is negative 1.19. So now all I have to do is calculate the angles, and then I'm done. So the way you calculate the angles goes like this. So if that's negative 1.19, I'm looking for this angle here and this angle here. So just know that the negative part of that angle means that I went in the clockwise direction. So for all intents and purposes, you could think about that, this reference angle in here. So this reference angle here is 1.19. So if that's the case, how would I find my blue angle? How would I find that blue theta? What's the math behind that blue theta? So right now, if you were wondering, okay, but Ms. Johnson, can I just put negative 1.19 as one of my answers? Actually, no, because they gave you the restriction from 0 to 2 pi, and negative 1.19 is negative. It's not, it doesn't fall in that interval. So therefore, I'm going to look for theta. So theta is about what? How would I calculate that blue angle, this guy here, from here all the way to here? How do I calculate that? What's the math behind that? Does that make sense? So if you can remind yourself, this is 3.14 radians. Does that help you? Y- 3.14, good, plus our 1.19. Does that make sense? So break it up. 3.14 goes all the way here. And let me just clean this up just a little bit. Okay. So 3.14 goes from here to here, right? And then plus that extra little boop is 1.19. Does that make sense? Why it would be 3.14 plus 1.19? So 3.14 plus 1.19 is 4.33. Does that make sense? So this answer over here is 4.33. Okay. Now I want you to calculate the other one. Can you do that? Can you calculate that other one? Calculate that other one. How would you get that other angle? And then that angle I'm going to use as pink. How would you get from here all the way around to here? What would you do? Okay, so the way you get the second angle is I would actually go all the way around to the full circle. I'd go this way, and then I'd subtract off that 1.19. So that full circle, right? So where's my calculator? So that's 2 times 3.14, and then I would subtract off that 1.19, giving me 5.09. So my other answer is 5.09. So what did we do? The first thing we did was we drew our triangles out because we needed to know how many angles we were actually looking for. They told us it was going to be 2, but later on you want to make sure that you're finding all of them. And then we use the sine inverse to get theta out of sine. And then when the calculator told me negative 1.19, that is not one of our answers technically because they told us to use the interval from 0 to 2 pi. And so when I did that, I was like, oh, okay, that makes sense. So then because 1.19 represents the reference angle in the triangle, I just have to build the angle by either adding, we added 3.14 plus 1.19 to get the blue angle. And then we added 2 circles and then we subtracted off the angle to get the pink angle. Okay. So hopefully this makes sense. You want to just keep practicing this. This is not something that makes sense all at once. There's just going to be like pieces and pieces every single time you do a problem. Good thing you have a bunch of problems to try here. Okay. But yeah, let me know how it's going, what things are easy and what things are not. Thank you. Have a great day.